Are the Rotting Leviathans apex crustaceans in Tides of Torment? Let's return to the beloved Leviathan, the unit you're told never to recruit in favor of a Necrofex. Well, they do different things. Let's look at exactly what this one does in the current game and where it can be of service to you. Recruited for 2100 gold and 535 upkeep, let's get this out of the way. It's 3 turns to recruit normally, but the tech to reduce reanimated creature recruitment by 1 turn reduces that to 2. On Ultra, health arrives at 9,894, armor is a whopping 150, competing with the Arachnarok. Leadership of 55 isn't impressive for normal races, but for undead it's pretty high. Speed 50 and charge speed 80 are plenty decent, and for the faction, that's almost blazing speed. Melee attack begins at 52. Attack interval of 3.2 seconds means it attacks very fast between the end of the animations compared to most things. It's not quite a Vargulf, but it's pretty fast. Arachnaroks couldn't take advantage of their equivalent very much because they were set to stagger ridiculously easy. That's been fixed. Splash size, large, means that up to trolls will dilute damage between them for better or worse, reducing overkill and promoting underkill, but for anything smaller, max targets actually damaged of 5, regardless of what's tossed about, means the damage is more focused on kills, not wounds. Melee defense of 42 is no sea elemental, but it's high for single entity monsters. Weapon strength of 480 is far from highest, but the split of base 120 and armor piercing 360 is very generous on the armor crushing side. There is a bonus versus infantry of 15, which instantly makes its melee attack 67 against Empire Swordsmen at rank 0, and a minor buff to the damage. Charge bonus is 24, and mass is 5500. There is a ranged weapon, but it functions in the same spirit as the skinks on a Stegodon. The weapon does not inflict poison, and its damage is suspect, to the point viewers have asked me, in complete seriousness, if the gunners on top fired at all. They do, and the relevance is not so much the stats, which I'm putting up. Ammunition 200 means good luck running out, but that the handgunner rounds will inflict a ranged damage morale penalty to the opponent, one that doesn't care if the enemy is demons or undead. Unbreakable units won't care, sadly. In addition to this listed weapon, there seems to be a second, unlisted gunner with identical stats, operating much like you would see with Ancient Stegodons or Dread Saurians. Of course, the weapon here is pretty limited, but still, that's 2 handgunners firing, not 1, per lobster. Of course, the unit is aquatic and is a siege attacker. It causes fear and terror as we might expect. The current era special sauce is that it has expert charge defense, so it can brace and resist the charges of Griffin and Chariot and Kadai Destroyer and Marauder Berserkers alike, and has the trait Immunity to Flanking, so it will not suffer morale penalties or any other for being flanked. This also means Devastating Flanker will not be a thing against it, which is some solace. In the redline skills, Rotten Death is the same skill we saw for Prometheans, at 3 pips giving melee defense plus 6 and physical resistance plus 6%. The last part won't seem like anything but token until we get to the tech tree. Hardened by Death makes rank 7 and above Leviathans get melee attack plus 8, which is stupendous. Weapon strength plus 12% and spell resistance plus 15% for good measure. We'll get back to that later. In the tech tree, it's actually what we saw with the crabs, but let's see how this lands. Straining at the leash means plus 10% more speed generally, and plus 15 flat charge bonus, going from 24 to 39. Considering the other stats, and that this is meant as a defender unit, that's pretty interesting. Reinforced Carcasses adds plus 20% physical resistance, which means fully spec'd, that's plus 26%, on top of having armor 150, provided that armor matters whatsoever. Enduring Reanimation reduces the mighty upkeep by minus 10% and shaves 1 turn from local recruitment time, which will mostly mean shipbuilding lords and otherwise only tier 5 settlements. So how do we use Rotting Leviathans? Yeah, so this is important. This is not a throwaway section, because this unit opens up a wide variety of potential uses, to the point it's one of the most valuable units you can have, provided you are not overloading the space and getting nothing for it. Even without the added spell resistance, just the fact it's a single entity could make casting an area effect damage spell around it completely irrelevant to it. plus the fact it's armored this high may help with some of that to reduce damage to triviality. A Queen Bess on top of it wouldn't matter much. Spell resistance just makes it a little better at handling big bombardments from spells. Even though in certain armies you're going to have carronades around, or Necrofex Colossi spam, still, it's just plain strong to have a Leviathan pincer a gate down on its own. Unaided because making it trip over other units will just slow things down. It's not a wallbreaker unit, but provided you have any magic at all to fling, taking a gate down and forcing a blob around it will make for good things for you. More broadly, even though it can't completely seal off an area against some stuff, anything a Rotting Prometheans unit could do to stop an enemy advance, save having all sorts of hand cannons on top of the crabs, because that is not a thing here, can be done by a Leviathan too. That does mean certain kinds of friendly fire are more tolerable than others, but as long as units are working with it and shooting around it, like they will for the most part, it's in your favor. And here we get to an even more important part. The Leviathan can actually legit fight. Melee attack 52 minimum is far better than needed to slap around the vast majority of large targets, and only gets better. This isn't a chariot. It isn't dependent on a fat bonus versus infantry to be competent at close fighting. By all means, the bonus helps tangle with top-tier infantry, but it's otherwise icing. The awesome chocolate is still entirely valid on its own. Since it's catered as a defender unit, it's meant to hold its own and put in a good fight instead of burning things down like some feral carnosaur. Giving as good as it gets is an aspiration you might well achieve, and abilities like Taunt and Avast Ye can raise melee damage and debuff the enemy and so on. I tested the single entity in Sieges, and its performance against gates is kind of disappointing, but no doubt this is due to not having the highest weapon strength. You have other options, and if it must, it'll get the job done, eventually. Overall, the value of the unit is just to be strong, resilient, and surprisingly flexible in that it's reasonably fast considering the faction's slow pace. It creates blobs, it pins forces down, and just takes a lot of effort to deal with. Vampire Coast is, in fact, one of the better factions for dealing with them, but short of ridiculous levels of gunpowder. It's not easy to bring down, and that, frankly, is what you really want out of it. Hard to bring down means you can fight around it. Even though that sounds like a very large support unit, it's a good contrast to other top-end troops, and the magic synergy is unmatched. Take care, and have fun pincering your way through tenacious opposition.